Happy Halloween, people. We've got a spectacular interview here with Rod Serling. I remember him because as a teenager, I had such a crush on him. Anyway, let me give you the backstory. Born 24, died 75. He was an American screenwriter, playwright, and television producer, best known as the creator of The Twilight Zone. Even you young people know, oh God, he's in The Twilight Zone. Probably use that as just some way to make fun of people, whatever. He's a decorated World War II veteran. He turned to writing after the war, winning acclaim for teleplays like Patterns and Requiem for a Heavyweight, never heard of that, which addressed social and moral issues. Frustrated by network censorship, he used science fiction and fantasy to explore the themes of prejudice, war, and human nature in The Twilight Zone. Kind of reminded me of Hitchcock movies, too. Anyway, crafting stories that remain timeless cultural landmarks. Sterling also created Night Gallery. Oh, I love that one. Co-wrote Planet of the Apes and taught at Ithaca College. He is remembered as a visionary who used imagination to challenge society and reveal deeper truths about the human condition. Wow. And I want to also say hi to Michelle Gray, who is going to channel this wonderful man. Her information is in the description box below, and you will see quite soon how she is worth a look. And we have my son Erik in the Afterlife, who's going to be helping moderate, pitch in, help Rod communicate if necessary, although I doubt it. So, hi, Erik. Hi, Michelle. And hi, everybody out there. And hi, Mr. Serling.
Eric says, "Hi, Mama. I love you."
I
Mr.
love you.
Serling, Rod Serling, he's here. I've already got a flash of him. I just have to tell you the image. So I saw his face, which looked like a black and white photo. It actually looked like a yearbook photo.
Oh,
Just flashed
yeah.
it really quick. But
Typical.
Eric gave me an image just now, and he wants me to say this in Eric's tone. Eric shows me himself in a trench coat with a fedora
Typical.
over his
Oh, yes.
over his
Yes.
head, and he's backed up under a lamppost, and he says, he goes, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening where we're going to explore the ordinary in extraordinary and the otherwise."
Oh, very good. Bravo. All right,
Good
so we've
job,
got a
Eric.
lot of questions, and they're divided up into sections. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Sometimes I accidentally call you Sterling because you're such a sterling character. But it's divided into different categories. The first is childhood, creativity, and imagination. So,
Mm.
Mr. Sterling, what drew you as a child to horror and science fiction? Yeah, and how did it shape your imagination?
He says he's actually taking horror out of the equation, and he said that he didn't have to look far. He says, "I was built for this kind of work, but how it showed up first for me was watching the world around me. I came from a family that, uh, um, in comparison to many of those around us, we would be considered not doing very well financially.
Okay.
And so I would watch my mother magically learn how to stretch or would stretch a feast out of very little food. She would make things out of nothing. And
Ooh.
so it was absolutely beautiful to see how my mother would hum and would make us feel like we were having the most exquisite dinner, the most beautiful dinner, when we really had maybe a bowl of mashed potatoes and a few pieces of meat. And so I learned how to make something out of the ordinary. I
Wow.
learned how to play and create. I was a child that had an imagination. I was a child that built a stage, and I didn't need much to do that. But I explored with personalities and stories, and how I really saw it, I'll tell you. The horror actually came from seeing the masks that so many people put on their face. And so, where
Ooh.
I got much of my inspiration was looking at the details. I was a quiet child, and I would look at the details that would be in the ordinary corners that would give extraordinary ideas to what could be happening. Because you see, when we look at others, and maybe they're not telling us the whole story, say the neighbor that walks inside the door and just waves their hand hello, what exactly are they doing behind the scenes? Because each and every one of us, you see, will take the imagination and fill those little, what are they doing with assumptions? Well, I happen to fill those ideas with maybe some things that are a little otherworldly. And I enjoyed the ability to be able to bring a full circle, a little story. And so as a child, it didn't come out quite like a package. It was the brewing of a storyteller. That's what my childhood was like.
Wow, that's fascinating. What do you see as the difference between imagination and creativity? You think imagination is the vision and creativity is the act of bringing that vision into reality? Oh, that's a smart question.
He says the imagination is the limitless ceiling of exploration that doesn't require action. It doesn't
Mm,
require uh, physical anything. It actually requires openness. It requires the ability to step outside of the box that you were planted in. Creativity is like the Play Doh. That's when you get
interesting.
in and you start moving things around. You start working with the structure. You start creating, you start putting something into action with creativity. Imagination is where everything starts, everything.
Well, that's awesome. I heard you once wanted to write about Emmett Till, but were censored by the networks. Maybe that's where your dissatisfaction with networks comes in. Did that experience inspire the Twilight Zone? As a way to tell deeper stories?
Yes, I learned that the world wasn't ready to receive all the lessons that I was winding in into different stories, and I always had the truth. I had the truth that I would wind in ways that at that point that you're speaking of wanted to be controlled and censored because it was, well, it was not ready for the time.
Okay.
However, the Twilight Zone, you see, we could hide under the bizarre. We
Oh,
could hide under the weird and wonderful. But if you watch one, and I would recommend to anyone that has not watched one or would like to watch again, really pay attention to the story and to the messages that come through, because I was very good, and I'm proud to say, at winding in the truth into
interesting.
a story that seems nothing but bizarre.
Oh, I love it. We were hooked. Every Saturday or Sunday, it's like, oh my God, a new episode. Anyway, when you wrote The Twilight Zone, did you feel more like this is a great question, you were inventing stories or were you channeling truths from somewhere beyond? Wow, I need to know that answer.
He says that is a very good question.
Yeah,
And so he says that what he was doing was he was using he says, the mind, the experiences, my wonder, and was I channeling from other dimensions? Yes, I was. Did I know that I was doing that? Not in the way that we're describing here. I was pulling from nightmares, from dreams. I was pulling from questions, and I was pulling from experiences that I had had or witnessed others having. So, channeling in the sense, was I tapping into alternate dimensions? Well, I knew that I was doing something extraordinary. I just knew that I was very good at putting a masterpiece all down in uh, in writing or from the voice. But did I really trace the source of where it was coming from? No, I didn't. But I knew that there was something otherworldly happening within me.
okay. I'm trying to fix the sound settings because I'm trying to
You just made it
change it.
really low.
Okay, now I've increased it on my end, so that helped. And Paula can fix it in post. All right, so that's great. What's your advice to people who feel imaginative but struggle to turn that into creative expression? What is the same person asking these brilliant questions?
He says that the the greatest tragedy to an imagination is one that takes their imagination and runs it through the filter, he says, the minds of another.
Yeah.
He says if you take your creativity, if you take your imagination and turn it into something sacred, into something special, into a moment that is for you, that says nobody else is in this moment with me to tell me what I am seeing, feeling, and playing with is anything but mine. He says, when you take the opinions and the thoughts of others out of your imagination, you will start to discover that there's far more room for creativity to flow. And so it would be a good practice to sit and practice, what would I do? What would I play with? And when the thoughts of anything else comes in, it would be a good idea to start to explore why those thoughts are interfering with something so wild and something so unattainable as touching the imagination. He says to put action into it, and Erik just adds, he says if you take off all the ideas of what you think, he says, perfection of what you think imagination should be or creativity should be, and allow yourself to play, just like if you were, Erik says, in yoga, moving, flexing, getting your muscles stretched. Do
Okay.
that with your imagination, with your creativity, and not be afraid to put some of those things outside of you, express them on paper, express them, because it's important to get the imagination, Erik says, into action in some
Sure.
way.
Wow, that's interesting. I think that answered this other question. Do you have any advice for writers and storytellers today who want to use imagination to reveal deeper truths? Did you answer that with that when you answered the last one?
Well, he's adding this when it comes to writing. He says to uh, allow the raw to come through. He
Okay.
says, write with a
Don't be
raw.
afraid. Be fearless.
Yes. He says, write raw. Editing and all of those things can happen later, but the truth comes through raw form. The
Interesting. Makes
more
sense.
raw you can bring, the why of the feeling, go into the feelings of it, go into the raw. Don't worry about all of the other things that will start to come together. But as a writer, what is in your heart is that deep ability to express.
Yeah.
So allow yourself to play with expression, and everything else will come together.
Nice. So how powerful is human imagination, not just in shaping art, but actually shaping reality? I know thought creates reality. That's all physics, but what is your take on it, Rod or Mr. Serling?
He says, he says, Rod, be just fine.
Okay.
He's got quite a voice.
Thank you. Oh, he has a
Um,
beautiful voice.
mhm. He says the imagination is something that is uh, misunderstood, not as well studied as what it really is. But he says the imagination is the gateway to, and is the very first step to anything physical. He said
Yeah.
imagination is where we bounce, it's where we play, and it's where we use, sometimes he says, with purpose. So we are creating on purpose, we are playing in imagination. But he said it was put there because, well, he says, as human beings, the intention was not to be on earth to suffer or to um, he says, force how we experience. We are not meant to be scheduled beings that run by the force of a clock. Imagination actually connects us to the organic world, it connects us to patterns and moving through energy. If things don't hit the imagination, they will never come into the physical.
Makes total sense. So, if you would advise, you've got two more questions for this category. If you would advise
Mm-hmm.
humanity today, what role should imagination play in shaping the future?
He says without imagination, or with dulling the imagination, we take away opportunity for many great discoveries.
Oh,
And so he says that it is imperative to allow children to understand that imagination is not something that is solely for them. It is imperative to tell adults who have thought the imagination is a childish game or something that children do. It's important that adults understand that imagination is where we are able to raise our vibration, where we are able
yes.
to allow ourselves to carry in an expression of joy within us. It was something that we were naturally given as human beings. So it is important for society, for the world to understand that if we nurture the gift of the imagination as something just as important as any other part of our mind, as any other part of our physical experience, we will have more human beings that grow into themselves instead of growing into a version of somebody else.
Yeah.
We'll have human beings that are more connected to themselves.
What about adults, and of course kids too, but adults who read fictional novels? Can that help their imagination, stimulate their imagination?
He says yes, and
Okay.
he encourages it.
Yeah.
He encourages that.
Do you see creativity as something uniquely human, or is it a universal trait shared by souls beyond Earth?
He says it is a universal trait, but it is expressed differently. Through different types of beings, creativity may look different. But if we were to go to how it feels, creativity feels, it is the human experience with creativity that brings in the feeling of being blocked. Many other species that have that purpose built into them, they see it as part of their experience, whereas human beings get caught up in, I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
It's not coming out right,
Yeah.
because humans go more into the comparison or the idea of what does creativity look like. And so he's saying there's a lot of comparison as human beings, and
Yeah.
where other
To
beings
compare
are
ourselves
working.
to others and what the notion of what others think we should create, etc. All right, now to the
Yes.
next chapter. Horror, fear, and humanity. Getting closer to that Halloween vibe, people. So, why do you think humans love horror, even though it scares them? It's like I can't watch horror movies, especially gory ones anymore. I used to, but oh no, I can't. My heart can't take it. So, what's going on with horror?
Well, he says that the horror industry, he says that it's a very layered question, but what he will do is he says, well, I'll address why many people are so attracted to it. He said, it's the thrill. It is a sensation that many people are drawn to because it's a safe way of experiencing fear. He says, however, he says it is something that because many, the root chakra, or many that have maybe experienced some mm,
Drama?
uncomfortable situations, some trauma,
Mhm.
they find that there is a safety, and much of this is unconscious, but they find that there is a safety in experiencing something that they know at the end they will be safe, and yet their body is still able to go through the motions.
The
And so it's,
adrenaline, the dopamine,
yes,
all that
yes.
kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel safe after a horror movie. Keep all the
Well,
lights on when I sleep, and I won't watch it if my husband's not home. Ooh.
he says that's why it's layered, because he says,
Mm.
could one use a horror movie in intention to release trauma? Yes, they could.
Ooh.
They could, because he says it's all about the why. Why are you watching it? But he says that human beings as a collective in our society has enjoyed the thrill. But he also says that the unconscious part is that the soul knows that there are specks of truth through
Oh,
what is being presented,
wow,
and
Michelle,
there
you
is
are
that
spot on with this
curiosity.
channel. You're just awesome. Look how awesome she is, people. All right, do you believe horror and science fiction help people confront the shadow side of humanity?
Yes.
Tell us a little
he
bit more about
says
that.
he says that it, again, it takes people into the dark crevices of the thoughts, of the experiences, of the shadows that many know exist on earth, whether they've touched, brushed, or come near it or not. He says that the shadows in society are so important for us to be able to look at and investigate rather than ignore. And when we view this through the container of a horror movie, or he says, even in peering a story, he's like showing me like stories on the internet, stories in the news,
Yeah,
anything that gives that shadow. Why are humans so drawn to it? He says the same as what I said earlier about the neighbor that waves and says everything's good, everything's fine, because we as human beings know that we've been trained to wear a mask on our face and to
yeah.
say everything is good. And yet, like one of these horror movies, the neighbor that waves, everything is good and smiles, may have something in her freezer that
Ew,
he
a
doesn't want
dismembered
everyone else
body.
to see.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's probably in one of your shows.
Must be.
Do you think humanity's greatest fear is death itself or the unknown that comes after it, Mr. Serling? Rod, sorry.
Oh, does he like? Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Sure. Do you think humanity's greatest fear is death itself or is it the unknown that comes after?
He says truly, he says it is actually death itself. Many
Oh,
may say it is the unknown,
yeah, I would think that.
but he says, truthfully, many fear the pain, many
Mm.
fear the experience of death itself.
Makes sense.
And
Yeah.
he says, my gratitude to you, Elisa. He says, I thank you and your boy.
Oh,
And
Erik.
he says, Michelle, and all those that share with being able to express this experience, because death is not something to be feared. Death is not something to be afraid of in any way. The unknown, he says, we'd think that many would say, well, it's unknown. But the truth is, the unknown is actually the surprise. It is the
Oh,
great part.
oh, okay. It's like opening the door to light and love.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about monsters. Do monsters in stories represent human fears or aspects of ourselves we're too afraid to face? This person must be a PhD in something. God, in brilliance.
He says yes. And he says that he is pleased that that question was brought up, because he says a majority of the monsters that are under the bed truly are the parts of each and every individual, the shadows in the world that people are afraid to let the light see for
Well, before you go
fear.
on, hate to interrupt, but I read a story yesterday that this little boy kept complaining there's a monster under his bed. Monster. So the mother just ignored it. And finally she checked under the bed and there was actually a man hiding under the bed. You know, he was on the run or something. So anyway, but go ahead. But sometimes
Yikes.
there are monsters under the bed.
Well, yes. And that's a good point, because what he's saying is, um so many of the stories, and Eric's showing me a lot here too. So um many of the stories that he's saying that people are sharing, and they continue to share about monsters and experiences, he says yes, there are interdimensional beings, there
Yeah.
are energies, there are human beings, and he says many of the human beings are the ones that we should have more fear
Yeah.
towards than
There
the
are some
monsters.
monsters out there. You're right.
But he would like to address that uh, many people that are in the paranormal world, he says that much of what is being communicated with are, he says, fractals of human trauma and
Oh.
undone energy. And he says that over many generations, hundreds of years, these fractals, they begin to lose connection to humanity, and
Mm.
they start to build as a heaviness, like an entity. And so he says that that is why there is a great importance to much of the healing work that many do around the world, because there are layers of this energy that we do not see, that we do not fully understand, and that is not, he says, the monster that we make it out to be, but a piece of pain that has never been able to receive compassion.
Mm. All right. So, last question on the horror, fear, and humanity. Why do you think people often feel loneliness so deeply? Is it tied to some fears that horror explores? Huh. Is there a connection between loneliness and feeling the fears of horror?
He says it often is tied to the feelings of being misunderstood.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop there and we'll proceed to part two, which is going to start out with Halloween and the spirit of mystery. This is going to be a four-part thing. I'm just going to tell you guys. So hit the subscribe button, please, and the notification bell, and hit the like too. We need just a few more subscribes and likes in order to do something good that Paula says. I don't know. She's too smart for me. All right, so check out Michelle. She's in the description box below. Well, actually, she's in Canada, but she's in her information is in the description box below. Thank you, Mr. Serling. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, all of you guys who are watching. I love you. Bye.